Next week it's gonna look cool. if I
Next week it going to look cool.
which I will. I'm probably immediately after the stream gonna figure out why the 6K Pro wasn't.
Mine is going to be 100% improvement of next week.
That's true.
Yeah, Wash will actually be here next week. This week, we have Cleo's camera filling the spot that Wash's camera normally fills in addition to filling Cleo's spot.
Because you fill the spots in my heart.
Exactly. So Cleo is also going to be lip syncing every time Wash talks.
Wow.
Wait, that
also,
was
I've never plugged my headphones into the actual like headphone plug on the mic, so I can hear my own. I can monitor my own levels as well.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of interesting.
I'm excited about this lip syncing stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sing some classic songs as Jebediah Peppermint, and I expect you to lip sync along.
Sure. Yeah, I'll try my best.
If you want to call me baby, then go ahead now. And if you want to tell me baby, then go ahead now. It's more of like a rap thing. I don't really sing.
Yeah, I don't know what that was.
That was
it's like slam poetry. I need some snaps. Give me some snaps.
Josh, I'm going the I can have the microphone as close to my mouth as I want now route. So that's nice.
You can leave that microphone close to your mouth behind. Because if your friends don't leave your microphone close to their mouth, then they ain't no friends of mine.
Jeb's musical talents are perhaps not as significant as his arcade one.
Yeah.
He's I am a writer. I am not a musician. Thank you very much.
A writer, not a performer, if you will.
Yeah, Jeb comes from a time where writers cast performers for their work. They didn't have to all be Ed Sheeran.
That's right.
I'm going to fix something to do with my light real quick.
I was just about to be like, what are you looking at?
My
Jake?
light, this is actually, this is an old light. This is an old light, and I just watched
from the time when musicians had.
Jake,
I just watched part of it fall apart. It's gonna be quick to fix. I'll be back in a second.
Okay. Well, while Jake is doing that, let's start with some introductions since Jake's not here to introduce himself.
Yo, this is going great.
Well, Jake's normally at the top, so let's go.
Yeah. Okay. I'm Josh. I'm the Wing Badger Game Master. I'm going first this time. I don't normally do that. Anybody else who wants to tag in, go for it.
Hello, I am Trevor. We are not playing characters tonight, so I have no character that I'm playing. I am just myself.
Hey, I'm Wash. We don't have characters to play tonight, but I am a character. So, hi.
Hey.
And hi, I'm Cleo, playing Wash, and also Cleo at the same time.
Nice. Let's see if he figures out what to do. All right, buddy, you know what to do.
Hi, I'm Jake. I am Jake, and I moved into a new place, so I'm a little flustered, but I'm Jake.
That's a lot of Jake.
Well handled.
That was good, though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. Great pickup.
The jakiest Jake.
We find ourselves tonight at the conclusion of an arc, a crime spree, a sort of Sly Cooper themed little heist vibes adventure, beginning at the episode called The One Where Fox Assembles a Crew and ending at the one where they break Summit Tower. I was particularly fond of that episode title because the one before it is the one where they break into Summit Tower, and then the next episode is the one where they break Summit Tower. Just made me
I like
smile.
it a lot.
I rather than doing the full recap of this whole mini arc, I would love if we just, for each of us, like top 2 moments for you as a player in this arc, and then we'll come back to top 2 story moments. So right now, just think about like your gameplay, things you got to do, whatever, that kind of thing.
I think
I can start as the GM if that's easier. If you guys want a little,
I got one.
Okay.
I think number 1 for me as Gunner was the massacre the first time he used the Nomad Guard grenade. Not because it was a massacre, but because it was fun to use a new item and finally get to like pull it out and like have it like a big beat that was like relevant to what it did. And that was really
You're talking
fun.
about in the one in the Iron Tomb?
Yes.
When you used it on the Red Cloaks? Yeah.
Yep. So that was really fun. I think I'll have to think of. I should have thought of both before I started going. I only thought of the one. I'll come back to me later. I'll have another one.
From a GM perspective, for sure, my favorite moment, like on the meta level or whatever, was the reveal that Clara was the sous chef at the gala. That was like tippy top for me.
That was awesome.
That was a great moment.
I'll piggyback off of that and say that the moment that we realized that Clara had oceans was mind blowing for me.
She came to me after that session and she was like, we were talking about the game or whatever, and she was like, yeah, I went back to watch some of the different moments, and the look on Jake's face the first time I said Clara wants to use an ocean was so funny.
That's awesome.
She also told me, Jake, that she had not realized she normally listens to like the audio version of the podcast, or if she's commenting in the chat, she's not really watching the screen because she's looking at the rewards and the chat messages and stuff.
Sure.
So she doesn't normally see everyone's faces. And she was like, yeah, I went back and watched, and I was so impressed by how well Jake stayed in character when he was not speaking, because for 10 and a half minutes, he stood there stirring an imaginary soup bowl and occasionally held up the ladle and took a sniff or like sprinkled in some seasonings. It's just like you really
That's
made an
commitment right
impact.
there.
I'll put that as my second favorite. That was a fun visual bit that I know that the podcast listeners maybe didn't necessarily get, but it was definitely fun enough for me to keep doing it for the entire conversation that Fox was having. That was fun. That's my second one.
I just really respect the level of bit commitment.
I appreciate that.
There.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I just fixed my lighting.
One of my favorite moments was the last episode, when we were coordinating how to get down to Jeb as quickly as possible, and then playing out that whole scene.
With the leap of faith and everything.
Yeah,
That was a critical moment, all right?
it was a critical.
I just think we didn't, if we hadn't had chat vote and if we hadn't gotten that airdrop and if a lot of things hadn't happened, that would have never happened. That was
it's a good butterfly effect kind of moment where like if you realize like all the pieces that needed to align in order for it to work.
well, yeah. Otherwise, we would have just killed Jeb.
You in fact did kill Jeb. This all happened after you killed Jeb.
No.
You killed him dead.
No, he's alive. He's alive.
He is now. That's true.
I will say, I don't know. I really like when things like go wrong, but like in a good way. But I will say, I think one of the funniest moments to me was after everything at the gala, right? We attacked this guy. He's the head leader. We almost took over as him. We almost impersonated him permanently. And then for all of that, just to culminate in him going out to ask this literal hag his hand in marriage. I thought that was a good bit. We just like chase him down. We're like, we have no idea where they're going. Clara could be trying to poison him. We don't know what's happening. And he's just like, will you marry me? And the hag's just like, I don't know if I can do that. Can we just say
we
friends?
originally thought it was Clara and him.
Yeah, for like that was that brief moment where like that was one of the leading theories we had as players was like, is Clara the one proposing to this?
It was at first is Clara the fiance or the girlfriend, and then it was like, is Clara gonna poison him? Is she switching it with a poison cake?
Yeah, we were like, we were like
Savage.
big brain thinking, and it was just no.
She just needed exposure.
Yeah.
One of the things I really enjoyed watching this past mini arc was every time like a new bombshell would hit, because of the nature of the heists where we don't really role play out any of the downtime, like everything that was hitting was sort of unexpected and a twist. And so every time I would say something that was like a big reveal, I would flick down to the video chat and I would see everyone except whoever was active in that scene would suddenly be typing. in your message thread trying to figure out what to do next with the new information.
Yeah.
And it just cracked me up. That was a lot of fun to watch. What about like just story moments overall, story beats? What was something that you like? Is it a twist you loved or a moment that you were really excited to watch play out, or anything like that?
I mean, Jeb coming back to life obviously is a huge one.
I think the first reveal that it was a major illusion with the mimic and everything. That was definitely the moment. There was that moment, and then it was like all the traps when we were getting into the clock tower were the two moments where I was like, no, Josh is on to us. Like, just like Josh knows exactly what we're gonna do. He knows that when we tell him, hey, we're gonna enter here, and we do our little private chat of like, okay, what are we gonna do after we get in? He has guessed already what we're gonna do after we get in. Like, those were the two times where it was like, oh man, but it was awesome.
I mean,
I'm over here thinking
I
like an
enjoy
aBoLeTh.
I enjoy Fox's continuing battle with doorknobs and them being trapped in specific ways.
That was
listen,
great.
all right. You know, I will say my favorite part is maybe a bit meta. I just love how every session we did was, I don't know how much planning went into them, but for a lot of them there was very, very little on our part.
Well, I would.
We had a plan every single time.
I'd say, let me
Cleo.
caveat that we had a plan every single time. There was just always a chance that it was thought up 10 minutes before that we went live. Like, I think because we fit
There was
a lot
always
of
a chance, and the chance was significant.
we fit a lot of planning and thinking into the like 5 minutes leading up to.
Oh yeah,
going
we came up
live.
with some
Like,
genius ideas. Don't get me wrong.
I agree.
We crunch time, baby.
I'm sure what really was happening was the entire week we were stewing in our minds, brainstorming exactly what we wanted to do, but we would finally just converge
Yeah,
at the very end.
all the fireworks would fire. Everything was great.
Yeah, it was. I agree.
One might say collide.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Anybody else have big story moments they really enjoyed?
You know, I'll have to say, I'm still a little. I don't want to go too deep into it, but still a little shocked at what we did, and what I accidentally did as a meta narrative, like with that very last scene, taking down.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
coming back to that. Don't you worry. We're gonna have to talk about that.
No one's mentioned it, but also rescuing Rex and Sasha.
Yeah.
That was a big moment.
I thought they were dead for sure. When
I thought they were
The
gonna
Shadow
be dead,
Warriors were intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no, they were inside buildings.
Yeah, there wasn't any tents at all. Well, no.
Grounded.
The first heist, there was some tents in the rubble of the
Yeah, but we
Yeah,
didn't fight
the
Shadow Warriors.
Umbral Sea base.
I really enjoyed that catwalk fight with the Shadow Warrior. That might be my favorite story beat of the whole thing, when FP and Fox
That was
were
great.
like and the catwalk is unstable, and there's some, like there's the falling in the last minute catch and whatever, and then at the end there's like, is Fox gonna ride a catwalk down and attack somebody, but he decides not to. It's just like it was everything I look for in an anime fight.
Yeah.
It was great.
You know, speaking of good character moments, I've been waiting for Watch to bring this up, and he hasn't yet, so I'll bring it up for him. When FP had a panic attack with
Yeah.
the water.
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
That was fantastic.
This is not boring. This is not boring.
Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
And there was a couple moments later where Fox would start to have a panic attack because of heights or something, and FP would try to comfort Fox, and I thought that was really sweet. They were usually very brief moments that were kind of passed over for the next action scene, but I thought those were fun moments as well.
I thought that was good character
I
development.
really enjoyed playing FP.
I thought it was cool the way that the four of you managed to work into, what am I trying to say? The way that you like worked RP moments into action scenes. I think that is generally a challenge for D&D players, is to like, okay, now I'm in fighting mode, now I'm in playing the character mode, and I think you did a great job of doing both, of mixing them together. I think that was really cool. How did you feel about mechanics? For this one we did some homebrewy things to try and lean into the genre, like the heist genre. We added in oceans, we added in the pre-session briefings, and then we took a lot of the prep work off screen. How did we feel as a group about all those things?
I
thought it went
loved
really well.
Oceans. Oceans is such a fun mechanic, and I think
Absolutely.
that it's
agree.
it's unbalanced in the best way, because a game mechanic doesn't have to be balanced to be fun, and I think it was that, where it's like, does it all make sense necessarily, or like, are the rules enforced consistently, or like, is the game economy of Oceans making sense? I don't know, but did it work really, really well for the kind of story we wanted to tell, and did it make for really, really fun entertainment? Yes, I think that aspect was great.
I agree 100%
The
with
moment
this.
that I realized the value of Oceans was the moment when the heist was over and Wash used Oceans to go back and get burritos. That was the moment when I really saw the value in Oceans as a mechanic.
I still feel like we probably were given too many, but like that's not a bad thing. I think it was really fun to have them, but I definitely ended pretty much every session with at least 5, like 4 or 5.
I will
Unless
say,
start 5.
I think it depended heavily on us not abusing them, right?
Yeah.
The reason
Yeah.
why I bring that up is because, and I think you had good mechanics to avoid that. I will say that. Like the fact that a lot of things costed wingle digits whenever we did go back for something.
Although we did drain our coffers.
We did drain our coffers.
You ended with exactly 160 wingle digits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But you got +1 jet.
+1 jet. Yeah, it was worth it. If you asked me, you know, I don't know how much we started with, 5,000, I think, right?
Yeah, 5 or 6,000.
Yeah, if you
something
told
like
me
that.
all I had to do was pay 5 or 6,000 wingle digits and I get jet back, pay that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
There you go. And you get a level up.
Chat points out that Jake
true.
ended the gala episode without any Oceans,
That
which
is
was
correct.
important because he was going to blow up the cave.
That is correct. I think there was a couple other ones. I think I often ended with like 1 or 2 Oceans, and then the last one when we really went hard on Oceans, I think I had like 5 left.
I rarely used them. And I think part of that was just me having a hard time figuring out like what I could truly use them for, and other times just being like, I guess I don't need to use them right now.
That was something I was going to bring up, is I felt like you maybe didn't explore the full potential of Oceans.
I was scared to.
There were a bunch of opportunities. Like there were some things that we never saw in an Ocean that to me were like, oh, this is where I would have started. Like you guys came up with things I wouldn't have thought of as well. But for example, we never saw an Ocean where you decided to look at a floor plan of Summit Tower and figure out who's on what floor. We had an Ocean where Fox went in and asked the guards like which floors are cool, but we never had one where you're just like, okay, but what's in there? Like what's in the tower? We never had an Ocean where we did any kind of like building foundation scouting in terms of like, yeah, I'm going to send a familiar through the ventilation system and try and map out where we could climb inside the tower. So then there were a bunch of times in the middle of the game where I would have thought the next step would be like Fox gets posted to the basement and then he gets sent for a lap, and I would have been sure that the next move for Fox was, okay, get in an air vent and start rappelling up the tower. And that would have been like 2 easy Oceans of like, yeah, so I need to scope out the building and figure out where the external vents are, and then I need to map out the internal floor vents or find a builder's plan. And we never saw anything like that.
We did that I did that in the gala, but not the Summit Tower.
That's true. We did. You're right. We saw that once at the gala. But like that kind of thing, I think I would have seen a lot. Chat says, Josh spent a ton of time putting the tower together. He had a huge amount of the tower planned out in case y'all headed to any particular floor. It was a very busy DM week. That's true.
She had every
That
floor
tower
worked
was
out.
Well, yes and no. I knew what was on every floor, but a lot of the things I put in the tower were intentionally multiple floors. Like the hotel was 6 floors, so all 6 of those floors are hotel things.
Right.
So I didn't have to map them all out.
Okay.
But yes, I knew what was on every floor. You could have picked any number and I would have known what was there. And I filled it with all kinds of fun opportunities to get yourselves into trouble. But you went to the floors that mattered the most. So,
That works out.
Yeah, so that worked out.
I'm surprised.
But yeah, so
we saved Jeb and got the rods like that,
And
that was
avoided the aBoLeTh in the pool.
true.
That's true. We're gonna find out if that aBoLeTh died tonight. By the way, that's one of the things that's coming up.
Yay!
Wait a minute.
We're gonna do some rolls and see if that aBoLeTh
What?
escaped.
That's really bad if it died.
Why is that?
Zombie aBoLeTh.
Zombie aBoLeTh, yeah. Like, cause Because at the very end, character raised dead.
Chat
If
says
you would
death
be ever
before
so
aBoLeTh.
kind, if you would be ever so kind, please don't give the DM ideas.
Yeah, why are you doing this?
Come on, Cleo.
Yeah, it's an idea he already has. I know how he thinks. He's always one step ahead in that regard.
Anyway,
He's always doing weird crap like that.
yeah. So I also felt pretty positive about Oceans. I think we maybe did have too many. I would rather have had too many than not enough because I wanted you to use them. If it were something we were going to keep in the future, I think I would eliminate the guaranteed Oceans, where it would just be like, hey, for each prep day you do, you get a D4.
Oh, sure.
And
Ocean.
so, like, because if we were going to use them in the future and we weren't in the heist trope, then it would be more like, hey, we want to prepare for a day, or like when you went to Udril and you were like, hey, we're going to send Abercrombie and his Finch to do recon for 2 days before we get there. Instead of him doing a report to you, you could have had 2d4 Oceans.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Or something like that. So, which actually, that's a good question. Do we want to keep Oceans? Chat, what's your opinion on Oceans? Do you think they were fun enough to watch that we should keep doing them or no?
Personally, I think it's a mechanic that's really fun for the trope thing. I don't know if I necessarily want it as a gimmick in my standard D&D, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's fun,
Yeah.
but I think it's an extra dimension that I think could potentially take me almost out of the role play in a more serious or a more mainline story thing.
I will say,
I could see that.
I'm for using them again, but like I think it would matter when we use them, right? If we're going to do something that requires a lot of prep, like we're preparing for a battle, or
Like a big delve.
or something where that makes more sense, I'm good with. But like on the generic D&D level, I think part of it is that it removes a lot of it gives a safety net where I think in some cases doesn't make sense, right? Because that's what it is in the end of the day. It's a safety net for either poor planning or just not noticing something right away. And so we can be like, but I use an Oceans and I land in the safety net, or I use the Oceans and I can now wiggle my way out of this without too much effort. It's like another spell, another tool in your repertoire. And I think right now, as it is, I think Jake's right. For most cases, like, we should be limited to the tool set we already have, where Oceans might just be a little too powerful for the generic D&D.
Right.
I also think,
I could see that.
like, if we're planning on like continuing the sort of like following a trope, then each individual trope we choose will have its own individual trope mechanic that goes in place of it. So I don't think we should have overlapping trope mechanics, because then you probably just create some weird edge cases.
That's another thing.
I like
we'll
this
come to
idea.
at the end, chat, just so you know, as we're going to figure out what the next trope is. Go ahead,
I
Rob.
like this idea of having like a special mechanic for a type of session. So like, since Fox has already gone through like all of these heists and stuff, like in the future, if we need to infiltrate something or if we need to heist something, Fox is like,
Maybe Fox has an
sounds
Ocean,
like it's time for a heist.
but that's it.
Or it sounds like it's time for a heist, and then Fox has like a couple Oceans for that episode or something.
That's fun.
That is fun.
I like it. Another thing that we did is the like pre-session briefings. I don't know that I guess I'll shut up and let you guys have your opinions before I say my opinion. How do we feel about those and the idea of giving game relevant information to the players or to one player in order to have them relay it before, like at the beginning of the session? Basically, instead of me doing a GM recap, it's more like an in-character moment going over what everyone needs to know.
Was that what it's supposed to be doing?
Yeah. I said that every week too.
I thought it was meant to be like a bit. I thought that was the bit.
Well, it was a bit, but then also it was like the weeks where you had stuff happen off screen, and I was like, remember, some stuff happened off screen, but Fox is going to tell you all about it in the briefing, and then you didn't, so I just rolled with it and was like, all right, I guess we're going into the session now. No one's going to know.
I thought
but there's
it was
a bunch
a
of unanswered
bit.
questions for listeners in those episodes.
Oh! Wow. Okay, that's all on me. All right, that's all on me. I thought it was part of the bit.
I actually, if it helps any, I thought the one where you jumped over to Bruiser and he talked about your experience following FP through the, like with the vaults. I thought that one was funny for the opposite reason. I had just recapped the really short one so that he could just talk about the vaults, and I was like, but Bruiser will tell you about the other one, and then Bruiser, like bullet for bullet, read through the first thing I had said as well. So you got like the same recap twice before we got to what Bruiser was going to brief you on. I was just like, ha ha. Anyway.
We only live in extremes here at Wing Badger Tavern.
That's right.
It's either we over-explain or we don't explain at all.
Well, okay, so then pretending we had done that, what do you think of that idea? Do you like that concept? And should we
I think the concept is a good concept. Maybe if we were all on the same page about it. I was not. I was on a different book, and I apologize.
They were funny. I especially liked your idea to be like, hey, okay, so if we encounter Jeb, this is what we're going to do. And then I cut you off with the bumper.
I was like, I think I was about to pull up something else and say something, and you cut me off even before I was expecting to be cut off. I was like, damn.
You just got to go with it.
Got him.
The briefing and the dossier like aspect of it, I think was really fun. However, I felt bad that because all of us have different schedules and stuff, sometimes throughout the week beforehand, Josh would need info from us in order to prep, and we'd all be like, kind of like last minute getting stuff to him. So that's the only aspect of it that I didn't like because I felt bad about it, if that makes sense. But I thought that the the player engagement elements of it were really fun.
So I've been thinking about that, and I think maybe we can figure this out off screen. But I thought perhaps maybe we just need to schedule a halfway night, maybe like sometime towards the tail end of the week or something, where it's just like 30 minutes or an hour where we can just go over all of this stuff, like all the questions we have about the dossier, and we can brainstorm together, because we're gonna go through that, where a lot of us were figuring it out. If we did read over things, it would be over like the course of days or many hours as we reply at asynchronous times. Right.
Or there'd just be like one or two of us that formulated stuff about it.
So I think if we just had like a scheduled time that was off screen, where we could just sit down and talk about it for like 30 minutes. And that's it. Just 30 minutes. Something small, like a meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. This a meeting. Another
schedule
meeting.
a Zoom.
Schedule a Zoom.
I say, Cleo, do you think I want more meetings in my life?
I keep my Outlook calendar up to date. Just send an invite. It'll show you my availability.
Oh, yeah. I use my Google Calendar. So
Chat says, Clara's dossier was totally crucial to playing the character. Thanks for putting that together. There's a lot of things that Clara knows about that Willa definitely doesn't, and the dossier filled in the gap nicely. I definitely think for anyone who guests with us, I will always put together a dossier like that for them, because it was a really easy way for me to get all the relevant information for the character or the NPC like into one place. So that's for sure a given. So either way, don't worry about that.
that makes
I'm going
sense.
to riff off a little bit
dossier.
on...
Sorry, Washko.
No, you're fine. I'm going to riff off a little bit on what Jake said. I liked that it was there, but I felt like my time availability meant that I couldn't take advantage of it. Like, I think, what was it, guys? Like, maybe like the first week or like the second one, I just kind of absorbed it and brain dumped it out for everybody to kind of digest.
Yeah.
And that whole process felt really good. And I felt like we were probably more organized on that one.
Sure.
But I just didn't have the time to it. And so like Jake was saying, I kind of felt a little bad that you went through all of this work and were like waiting on us for the input. And then we just kind of flew by the seat of our pants most of the times anyway.
Yeah, and it's a given to, like, it's the nature of the beast that, D&D is about 4 times as much work for the GM, even though there are 4 players, just in terms of the amount of prep and things you have to be ready for. And because you're trying to build the world in front of the players, and you don't know if they're going to go up, down, left, or right. So you need you need at least one step on all 4 paths.
Sure.
But at the same time, it was like, I think it was still helpful in that we were able to skip to the dungeon every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if it like was thrown together from your end when we got to the dungeon, the difference between a 1-shot and a 3-shot is whether we start at the dungeon.
True.
That is true.
I have discovered in this past experience, because by the end of it, we were down to our normal 2-hour sessions, but we could do the whole dungeon. And that's something that is really challenging, because 2 hours is just not enough time for 4 people to explore a whole dungeon. But we were there, and I think it was because we had that prep off screen.
We also didn't like do, I reiterate what we've already said multiple times over many tavern talks, but the fact that we're on stream and have an objective, right, really helped nail down the play time a bit. Whereas like if this was just like between friends and casual, I'm sure there's many times where we would have just been like, I'm going to just go F around over here just to see what happens. Or I'm going to search every single floor. And,
The very second session that Cleo ever played with me playing D&D, Cleo's character was like 5 XP behind everybody else and decided, like, I'm just going to go take a walk this evening. And I know that deep down inside you, that D&D player is still there lurking. What do you feel like was the biggest challenge of the arc for you personally? That could be mechanical, it could be narrative, it could be whatever. But like, what was a hard thing to role play or whatever? I don't know, whatever it was.
That is a great question. I think. Oh yeah, go ahead, Cleo.
I was just going to say, I think I definitely felt a little weird role-playing Fox in this scenario. I feel like I did a couple of things that, while on the surface level, weren't very apparent, but how I understand Fox was a little harder to do, if that makes sense.
It doesn't. Can you expand?
Okay. So there were certain actions that I think I just brushed over or did that I think Fox normally wouldn't have done or would have done so quickly. And I think like a couple of them were just like how okay he was with a lot of the murdering we were doing, especially after the gala episode, which I felt like put a more of a personal face on a lot of the people we kill. Like, it's one thing we're like trying to go do some stuff and these people come out of nowhere and start killing us, right? We got to kill them back. But it's another when I show up at their house, essentially, and like while they're doing this is supposed to be the easy job. I just walk around, me and Mike, we play cards after work, after patrol, and it's not too bad.
Barkley.
Yeah, and damn, and we're just like, sucks to work for that job, I guess, 'cause you're dying today.
You dropped a tower on Barkley.
Yeah, I
Hope it comes out peacefully and quietly.
Yeah. I think piggybacking off of what Cleo said, I think it's hard to roleplay like the sort of killing part of D&D where it's like, yes, monsters, but when it's like people who are the bad guys, like having that sort of separation from like our personal values, but like, and then trying to substitute our characters' values and like what is normal for the world that's different than like our world and all that. So I think it's like
I will say we did draw the line a couple times, though very briefly and sometimes brushed aside. Which Clock Tower was one. And where there was 2 maintenance people. And I know Gunnar was just like, hold up a second, FP, we're not about to grenade 2 mechanics. Yeah. Even though that's not what the grenade was, I think.
That reminded me of something Willa brought up after the last stream, where everyone was sort of reeling from what had been done. And well, actually, maybe we should come back to that. It doesn't matter. Willa pointed out that in that exchange where Gunnar stops FP from throwing the grenade and FP's like, no, this one was just entangled, it's going to be fine. And FP like calls him out, like, you should trust your teammates. And Gunnar's like, well, that's really hard for me, but next time you do something with a grenade, I will trust you. And then the next time FP does something with a grenade, it was blow up Summit Tower. And Gunnar like acted, you know what I mean? There was no second guessing. And I don't know if you were trying to play that in the character in the moment. My guess is that you probably weren't, because it seemed like kind of a throwaway interaction between the two of you after the session. But it kind of helps explain why, like maybe why that chain of events would have happened.
So for me, the first interaction was, to me, not a throwaway interaction. The interaction with FP about the grenade, and then you got to trust your teammates, and Gunnar saying, I'm not used to that. That was probably the one time I ever even referenced Gunnar's backstory, because there just wasn't very much chance to do so otherwise. Like, there just wasn't anything that felt like a natural lead in. So that was the one time where I felt like I was able to reference this idea that, like, Gunnar was this demolition specialist who loves pulling heists and loves blowing things up, and his last crew that had been together for a long time ended up all betraying each other, double crossing each other, and then he was looking for a job after that, and that's how he found Four Guys. And so that's like the one time I was able to reference that. The second time, though, with the, all right, Gunnar's going to listen to FP and do this, that was more of a knee-jerk, like, subconscious, like, Gunnar wasn't going to suggest this, but now that FP has, it feels right that Gunnar would be like, okay. And I think that I wasn't specifically thinking about the previous interaction of like, okay, next time I will trust you. I was more just thinking about how throughout that whole session, FP seemed to have taken the reins as far as the leadership role. And so Gunnar had been listening to him the entire time up until that point. So I was like, it'd be inconsistent of him to say no now.
Right.
But that was a decision making for me at that point.
With FP, there was a, like, I was trying my best to play him as an unintelligent but capable character. You know, like somebody who, you know, an adult baby is essentially what I was, you know, like with the capabilities and the cognition, like the cognitive abilities of an adult, but like with very little experience. And I think his monotone nature almost gave him a bit of a commanding personality, but he was never really trying to like be in charge of anything. And I would intentionally give him kind of bad ideas, like bad in the idea that like it's very simplistic. You know, like with the whole thing in Summit Tower, he was operating under the pretense that Jeb was very capable. And so if this was going to be successful, it needed to be very, like, drastic. Like it needed to be a very powerful encounter for Jeb to make it through. He was expecting Jeb to completely survive that with flying colors and us still have to confront him. Like, he was just trying to weigh him down. But again, like with that inexperience and him just working with secondhand information, and there being a time crunch, we already established that he's a little panicky under time crunches. It just kind of like all fell together.
FP has no sense of scale as to like what destructive power is.
Exactly, because it's like, oh, this guy's a threat. We're activating instant kill mode, warp him over here, and shank him through the torso. Like it's not about like subtleties with FP. He's very binary.
I will say,
Chad says he's naive. Yeah, I would agree with that.
I didn't realize it, but yeah, no, FP just had the moment of like, he's a legend, he'll survive, and just threw the world at him of like world of damage, and he didn't.
I will say it is the closest I think I've come to overruling a serious dice result is on whether Jeb died or not, because if he had lived, the spell he was trying to cast was Bigby's hand. He was going to catch the elevator as it fell and throw it back at you. And I just thought the cinematic of that was really dope. But in the end, I decided to, like, it was just such a significant explosion and whatever that I let the dice win as I usually do. But it's the closest I've come because there was a really cool moment in there. But
there ended up being a really cool moment after.
It still was. And I've said this before, but anytime we get near player character deaths, I always try and be like really strict with like the dice are going to do what they do. The rules are exactly how they're written, that kind of thing.
I think piggybacking off like the backstory thing, I think one thing that didn't really come out well with the format of this is just like we didn't really have any heart to hearts where you're like getting to know the characters really well. Willa kind of brought it up, and like with Bruiser, you just had what he said during the introduction, and there was like a very small moment that Bruiser, like I tried to play it but not like oversell it when we saved Rex and Sasha and we were in the cave and stuff. But it's something that probably isn't noticeable unless you actually know.
And it's also like that's probably the trade-off of starting at the dungeon every time. Is that you don't get as many of the moments where everyone pauses and like, wow, that was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, let us bond over our trauma.
I mean, the way that we did it is like a blockbuster action movie or spy movie or heist movie where a lot of those movies you don't get any character development.
Damn.
They're kind of all vibes, no plot, or like no character kind of things. And I think that that's a fun thing to do, and I'm glad that we did it over like, I don't know, was it like 6 sessions or something like that?
I think it was 6
because I think that's a great length of time to do that. At the same time, I am excited to see in a more standard setting where we're able to role play a lot more like we did before. I'm excited to see like what Fox and Jeb's first interactions back with each other are going to be like, and let those like moments sit and really let the emotions kind of take hold.
I was gonna say, I just realized I had a sick thought, and like awesome that and what if we had used an ocean? Yeah, a sick thought. What if we had used an ocean to have one of those moments? Right? Like
That would have been cool.
Like just been like mid heist and I have an oceans where I just sit back and talk to like Gunner over breakfast.
That'd be fun.
I mean, FP kind of did that with his conversation with Radford. When it came, like I knew our downtime heart to heart moments were going to be far and few in between, and I was in the back of my mind, I kept having like that scene in heist movies or whatever, where it's like 2 guys are in the ventilation shafts and they're waiting for the thing to happen. Like that's when the heart to heart happens. Or it's like they both get through the lobby and they're in the elevator and they've got like 5 floors with the duffel bag and that's where the character development happens. So I tried to make an effort where that kind of stuff took place in those places, but I rolled too many ones. And but I feel like we had a couple moments like that. We just didn't really get to unpack. It was more of like I think a lot of those times we took planning or making up for the lack of planning that we had.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that happen in elevators, I missed a highlight of this mini arc for me, which is fake maintenance Jake.
Fake maintenance Jake is the best.
So quick on his feet. That's awesome.
That was an aspect of Gunner that hadn't gotten explored yet, where Gunner is a mastermind rogue, which I took because of like I felt like it sort of fit what he was doing, but also I was like, in order to be a good demolitions expert on a heist, you have to be able to blend in and get to where you need to go in order to like subtly place the explosives and whatever. So his trapper background took care of the skills for the demolition part, but his whole subclass is all about imitation, studying people, being able to blend in, all in a very persuasion and intimidation type way, not necessarily in a stealth type of way. That's why you hardly ever saw Gunner make any stealth checks. He was always just trying to blend in. And that really, I'm glad that in the last 2 sessions that got to be explored, where like his whole like mastermind rogues have like a feature where they can take the accent and the voice of like anyone they study for a minute, and they're really good at like changing body movement, like that sort of thing to blend in. And I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, for sure. That was so fun to watch too. I lost it when you did. I had to like role play the other end of that radio, and it was so hard for me to keep a straight. You can see in the like video of it, you can see me like trying. So that's why I covered my face when I did the radio. It was like, because you can't see me grinning like an idiot the whole time. Let's talk about predictions on the implications of this adventure. The first one and you can have other ones that you think might have serious implications. These are just the ones that came up to me when I was sort of coming up with like my little bullet points of what to talk about tonight. What is the significance of the airship being gone during your heist, if it's significant at all? Like, what does that mean?
Okay, obviously, somebody's getting effed up by some shadow warriors. I don't know what else it means, but I'm just saying somebody ordered the wrong thing. Okay,
it could have something to do
It's
with
the
the
Amazon
vaults.
drone delivery.
Like,
What was that? Sorry.
It could have something to do with the vaults, like transporting goods, or retrieving goods.
maybe somebody important was being whisked away.
It was probably Topham Sav, yeah.
Maybe he had somewhere to go.
Left without his crab?
Yeah.
Yeah, why would
Yeah,
he
his
lose
crab was
Crab?
there to defend.
I don't know. That seemed less like
That
a guard
crab
dog
is probably dead.
and more like a very awesome crab that he loved and cherished and is very dead.
Well, it could be a zombie, I guess.
That crab had more hit points than Jeb did.
We
But
should
it
have
was
dropped the
also
crab
on
down the
top
elevator.
floor.
Yeah, just switch places. Jeb's the guard dog, and the crab was really the one we came
The
here
crab
for.
is one of the vaults.
Yeah.
the real friends were the crab we met along the
Ah,
way.
yes.
The real Jeb was the crab.
What about the tower's collapse on a personal level for Fox, Jeb, and Aulen, or for Four Guys as an organization?
This was discussed in a text chat. I don't know if it's visible to other people or not. I think the thing about the tower falling for Aulen is like, oh wow, that's crazy. I've been there, but not as much like the library falling or something like that, where it's like, that's my childhood home. That is like really close to my heart. The fact that happened is like a really foundational tragedy to me. The tower falling in a Four Guys kind of mission to extract Jeb and successfully extracting Jeb and multiple parts of the rods, I think Aulen at this point will be like, well, that's the cost of war. We're playing dirty right now. You know, like it's kind of scorched earth. And this is the kind of conflict where I think it's worth going scorched earth against. Like, we just have to do what we have to do. So I think Aulen's going to be not like condoning it. Like, that was a good idea, but like wow, that's crazy. Well, all right. Like, let's keep moving forward.
But we moved a lot of chess pieces into place because of it.
Yeah. I think from a Four Guys like company standpoint, it really depends on who gets to control the narrative of this whole thing, and like who like what the narrative is about it. Because it's like, if people know that we're with Four Guys, then it could come back to haunt us, because it's like, oh well, Four Guys just demolished.
You guys are
this town.
terrorists.
Yeah. But if it's
I mean, there aren't very many witnesses, if
There
any.
aren't.
Just saying.
but like if the city's like, it was this what was it, the Silver Fang?
No, the Black Fang.
Black
Yeah.
Fang. Yeah. But if they're like, this is the Black Fang, that's really great for Four Guys, because, you know, they get all of the things they were going after without having to deal with
The
like,
consequences
PR nightmare.
of our decisions.
Not the consequences, they just don't have to deal with the PR of it. Like, there are still going to be consequences of, you know, the Black Fang having now like 200 plus zombie private security goons, and
But it's not Four Guys.
Did was it
Consequences.
specifically said that they were raising the dead when?
no,
Yeah. Okay.
that's just the
I
assumption.
thought
Okay.
it was said.
The dossier said that they were necromancers, and Josh, in what we
Okay.
didn't see at the end, was that they were collecting the bodies and bringing them
Okay.
underground.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't drawing too many conclusions, because I couldn't remember a specific like. And then they started making zombies, but yeah.
I thought
okay,
that was a
makes
reasonable
sense.
conclusion to draw, but maybe they
think that's fair.
I legitimately, for some odd reason, thought that they just raised the undead and then just had them march into the tunnels.
Well, magic doesn't exist there. I mean, unless they've got like zombie ciphers of some kind. Like there would like something like that would have to come into play.
Yeah.
Let me go back down to your conspiracy board here. I'll find the Black Fang's little blurb and read it for you. And also, just so you know, chat, if you care to look at their conspiracy board with all their clues, you actually can see it we've made our between games chat visible in the Discord, so you can react, but like you can't post in there because it's mostly for players to work out logistics on stuff. But for things like this, when there are like visual aids or whatever, I link them in there for the players, which means that you can also click on them if you want them. So there's never any game breaking info in there. You don't have to worry about seeing spoilers. But you could see things like, oh, I wonder what their little, their post-it note
That
about
way,
the Shadow Warriors says.
If you
or
notice
whatever.
something that we all forgot or brush over, you can like spam it in chat and be like, "You fools! You absolute buffoons!"
That's exactly how we want you to say it too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh has
glad that
reminded us on several occasions of things we missed in season 1 that we still haven't gone back to figure out.
There is one that one that I talked about. It's still out there.
So,
Is out
in case the
there.
chat doesn't know, or if you haven't heard of this, evidently there was like a game-defining moment that happened in season 1, a clue that we have never like followed up on or focused on or just plain forgot about. That it's evidently like very important, essential. And we are just, it's like that moment when you played the tutorial, but it wasn't the tutorial. And it was actually part of the game. And if you had just gone over and clicked on the closet would have opened up and given you one of the major items, one of the MacGuffins you need to beat the game. And we're like, anyway, yeah.
The old man said, before you leave here, go into this cave real quick and get a thing. And we were like, cool. And we walked on past it.
Something like
And
that.
we don't remember where the cave is.
I think I did that in Elden Ring.
The Black Fangs are a secretive cult that specializes in using magic to further their interests. Their leader, the secretive High Priestess Selene, has a ghoulish appearance and is rumored to have made a pact with dark forces. The Fangs operate out of a hidden temple in the city center where they conduct arcane rituals and conduct experiments on their enemies. In the city sewers. And conduct experiments on their enemies. The Black Fangs are notorious for their kidnapping and human sacrifices, and they seek to bring magic back to Uridab by finding the proper sacrifice and ritual to an entity on the Nine Hells. That is their deal.
So maybe not
So
zombies.
how does demon magic work if there's no weave?
Maybe it doesn't. I don't know.
Demon
That's just
weave.
what they're up to.
Maybe
Who said cult things had to make sense?
I was gonna say maybe
Cult.
they've somehow made some sort of warlock type pact.
What if
that is
they
enabling them to do
sacrifice the
stuff.
aBoLeTh to the demons and then the demons rise up?
Ooh.
What if they were working for an aBoLeTh?
Stop giving him ideas.
Ooh. Wash is like over there like
None of us have tried to play a warlock yet. We haven't seen whether warlock magic would work in this weird.
What if in Aulen's little side quest, one of us plays
A warlock.
an undercover Black Fang warlock?
Ooh.
I will
Spicy.
say, I believe I did check Warlock. Maybe I didn't ask probing enough questions, but I believe I did ask the DM about Warlock things. I thought.
I wasn't going to out you as the person who asked, but I was going to say somebody did ask me about Warlock, and I was very clear to them that if you can't communicate with your patron, then your patron's unable to give you things.
Gotcha.
So most of Warlock is defunct in a magicless world.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, chat, you have it exactly right. You can't connect with the god, so how would you connect with a patron? That is precisely the problem
What
that
if your
Warlocks are
patron is your
experiencing.
best friend?
You subscribe
give you
for
vibes.
$5 a month.
Yeah.
My patron is Wiggle Digits.
What about for Jeb, Wash? Do you feel like the collapse of the tower has any personal implications for Jeb if he finds out?
I mean, I think Jeb was growing some morals. I think he started. I mean, this is if we think back towards the beginning, he started off having very solid morals, and then things got hard, and he was like, when we found him, he was probably like neutral good.
I remember him robbing a bank.
Yeah, I think we saw true chaotic for a lot of his
maybe
early
more
journey.
chaotic good. Maybe chaotic good. And then he kind of like dipped down into like neutral or chaotic neutral. But then, after his, development with Zoth and with Fox, he was kind of moving back up towards good. But I think, honestly, he would probably take a page out of Aulen's book with the whole scorched earth idea. Like, I don't think he desires to, for wanton destruction and death. But, if he looked at the summit tower and was like, these jerks putting their base of operations in a hotel with, like it's almost like the enemy army setting up their base of operations in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And
Let's say,
and that doesn't necessarily give you the right to go in there and bomb the hospital, or whatever. But it's like they're playing super dirty, and he's not above getting his hands dirty.
that draws some uncomfortable
If it's
parallels
necessary.
if you think about it. Like,
Chat says,
Yeah.
Chat says, Jeb's been carrying the weight of his daughter's death. I'm concerned that these deaths would really mess with him, but also he doesn't seem concerned with harming others during their missions. But he has the unique perspective of being the one who was kidnapped and tortured, so it would be easy to throw out the whole thing since he knows these were really bad dudes.
It also, I think,
Well-
depends. Like, does Jeb remember everything that happened while he was under their spell, or is it like an amnesia situation?
I'm glad that you asked. There's a mechanic for that.
Ooh.
Wash, however much of that you want to share, you're welcome to.
Well, I'm going to keep that in my pocket for later.
Okay.
Okay.
But to touch on Jeb, having to deal with his daughter's death and stuff, we've already pre-established that Jeb is kind of selfish. For a while there, his goal was almost like done, where he was like, well, I've got my magic, and I'm kind of cool with that. Like, if magic doesn't come back to the world, then that's all right. And then when we found out about souls not being able to pass on, he would be cool with being the one or part of the ones who brought that back, but really he cares about his daughter and his friends, and so he's not like this selfless hero. He's very much invested in what he considers important, and that, I think, that leans more to his neutral, chaotic side.
I think that actually makes like a very good grounded character. I think it's rare you find like a very hero character, right? That's just like, I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. It's usually like, I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do, but mostly because it's also the right thing for the things I care about directly.
That's a,
I would say
that's a
Zoth
really
was that.
interesting.
Zoth was the selfless hero for a long time, I think.
Yeah.
What about Fox? Like, what's next for Fox? Because if we remember, Fox started this journey because he decided he wanted out of like the real quest. It was almost like part of it was his loyalty to Jeb, and part of it, at least the way that I felt like you framed it, it seemed like part of it was kind of like an escapism thing for him. And like he and Aulen even left on sort of tense terms, where Aulen was like, I don't agree with your decision, but like, you are who you are and I support you. And like, that's fine. I hope you find Jeb.
Right.
But it was like,
your
there was some
shoes.
tension there, and Fox was like, I'm done trying to save the world. I'm just going to get Jeb. Like, what does Fox do now? He has Jeb. You know what I mean? Like,
And the majority of the rods of 7 parts.
that too.
Which, okay, so that was like an interesting thought, right? Which for a while, even though I was in aBoLeTh territory, Fox didn't have to worry about it, right? I'm just here for Jeb, right? Screw everything else. I'm just here for Jeb. And I think the Summit Tower changed Fox in a lot of ways. And I think the first one that happened was realizing the gravity of why, like, he's in their headquarters. There are so many things here that Four Guys Ventures and Vibes could profit from, or just like, in the grand scheme of things, right? Like, this could really further the cause of getting rid of the aBoLeThs. And getting, 3 of the 7 rods is huge on that list, which is why, I think towards the tail end there of part 1 or starting part 2 session, right? That's why Fox decided, all right, I can't ignore it, right? Like, I can't ignore being here is also like, we're within grasp of 3 rods of 7, right? That would give us, I think there's only 1 missing and we would have the majority of them.
Yes. I mean, 1 is with the King of Udril, but yeah, you or your allies would have 6 of the 7 pieces.
Right.
or you did do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have 6 of the 7 pieces.
So I can't ignore that. So that's why my first thought was, Fox, you know what? He's here for Jeb, and he's gonna get Jeb. And whether or not that kills him, it's the bed he's decided to lay on, right? Like, he went through all of this to get Jeb, and he's already a little uncomfortable with some of the people they've had to kill along their way, because like you said before, it was always like, you know, we're kind of just, you know, breaking into these like big bads area, and they're the big bads, and it's very black and white. And I think after the gala, it made him think like, man, these people are just people, man, and they're not aBoLeTh controlled. They're not evil people necessarily. Some are here for the paycheck, and I think he was already growing uncomfortable. So this was going to be his last hurrah, and then it just didn't turn out to be that, because Jeb was actually an illusion, and you guys, instead of getting out, got it entangled further inside the tower, and it just didn't work out the way he thought. But he thought if he just gave the rods to you guys and you guys got out, then the world's being saved would be furthered, and I'd still be able to try to save Jeb. And the fact that we got both done, I think confuses Fox a bit. I'm not sure what he's going to do. I'm going to be honest. Especially once he finds out what happened to the tower and all the people in it. Yeah, I don't know.
Do you think he will try and attune to one of the rods?
He's already started to.
That's true.
All right. So
he's leaned into the whispers from the rod of charisma there.
At first
but he's also got the rod of dexterity.
Right? Like,
technically, FP has the rod of dexterity.
I should say that crew, that group of people has
Yes.
dexterity.
But like, you know, part of me's thinking like, at the time, it was like, okay, this is a tool that'll help me escape this room, right? Or help me find Jeb. And now, once he started to actually attune to it, and the attunement process had the ability to start, he realized like, this will set me on the path of saving the world, whether I like it or not. I will then become...
Chat says Fox needs to shepherd off to the next plane.
Ooh,
That would be fun.
It's I don't know.
I'd love to explore more with Fox and Zoth. That was a fun duo.
I think I'll have to decide it in character in the moment next time I play Fox. I think that's just how it's going to have to be. Because right now, there's this... Fox just really does not want to be a part of this anymore. Especially after the amount of people he killed to get it done. So...
you don't necessarily... I mean, it would be nice to figure it out tonight, but it doesn't have to be tonight. But I do need you to decide sometime, because I need to know where he reintroduces into Aulen's timeline, if he does.
Ooh. Okay, fair enough.
It's not... Like I said, you don't need to... I mean, you guys were adventuring for almost 3 weeks, maybe even 4 weeks of in-game time. So it's not like we need to know for the first session. But I do need to know in terms of where he's going to go.
Especially with however long it takes for Aulen to finish attuning to the intelligence.
I wrote down
rod.
a couple guesses for myself of what I thought Fox might do. I think there's the possibility that Fox is going to try and go west because he knows that's where Garlel and Satonia are, and he's like, they can at least keep these rods safe, and I can then bow out. But he might meet up with Aulen's company out there. I think there's a chance that he'll try and head west central and try to meet up with Willow, and maybe even try and leave the company or convince Jeb to leave with him. So because I remember there was this big speech Fox gave Aulen of like, I just need my people, and that's all I care about. Like maybe he's just trying to get his people all in one place, and then everybody hunker down and see if it blows over. I thought there was a chance that he might head back east to Gaim and to Laredith with the rods, with the idea of like maybe he's trying to shepherd Zoth's soul, or like maybe this can help, or you know, like looking for the knowledge of like, can this do something? But also those are not directives to you. Those were just guesses I had of like what might Fox do next. Do you think? Go ahead.
I think it's going to highly depend. One of the things you didn't mention is Fox hasn't seen his parents in a long time, and all of this going back for Jeb made him realize like he should go see his parents. parents. Like, as
Zoth's
cliche as
parents
that
don't
is.
Call
even
home once
know.
in a while.
Yeah. As cliche as it is, like, I think getting to just get in contact with his parents and make sure that they're okay. Because at first, you know, he had this kind of like misplaced, just disgust for his parents of like, oh, they're boring, and they just want to live peacefully out here and do nothing with their lives, and I wanted to do something with my life. The whole reason I left the town, right, was to go and find an adventure and explore and do stuff and have the freedom to do whatever I needed to or whatever I wanted to, right? Instead of being held
He's come
back
full
by
circle.
like these moralities of like, you know, oh, everybody needs to be loved, and you know, because it was a very hippie commune, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yes.
And his parents were a big part of that. So yeah, a lot of misplaced disgust for that. And I think that was just him being fed up with not knowing what to do with his life. So now that he's gone through all this, he has seen what the world could give him, and he doesn't like it.
Realizing his parents were right all along.
Yeah, right. Maybe he just needs to make sure they're okay. I don't think he could ever live that way, at least not yet. But at least making sure realizing that a lot of that disgust for his parents was misplaced, and he really needs to check on them.
Add some perspective to it. Zoth wrote a letter to his parents, happy, eager, excited about his adventures and his friends, and then they have assuming that the letter isn't intercepted or anything. But then to like so they think he's fine basically, and then they don't know.
Does Fox have to break the news to Zoth's parents?
It's very possible if Fox decides to.
Yeah, when the fucking the saint, the heart of the group, the most lovable person dies, and then the degenerate, the one who ran away, has to go and break the news that, yeah, sorry, remember when we went together on a trip? Yeah, me, the person who probably deserved it less, lived, and the person who deserved to live infinitely more died.
Poetic justice.
Oh god. So yeah, that was my thought. I think it's going to depend on what Jeb says to him as well. I think right now Fox was relying on Jeb to be like a pseudo uncle or father figure for him that wasn't, you know, hippie. And now that he's got Jeb back, I don't know. Fox is a little
I wonder
goalless.
if we need like a little campfire conversation between Fox and Jeb at some point. Like maybe we do that in some upcoming session. We just set aside like 30 minutes to try and dive into that conversation. What about Wash? Do you think Jeb's going to attune?
I don't know if he can. Aulen has the Rod of Intelligence.
He has intelligence and
and-
wisdom. You've got strength, dex, and charisma.
Yeah, none of those Jeb would have mastery over.
Well, then I guess he wouldn't.
Jeb was previously attuned to wisdom, right?
Intelligence.
He's a wizard.
Oh.
But he told Aulen in his letter, like, I want you to have the rod or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That was just a good refresher. In the back of my mind, I think I did know that, but okay. But yeah, I mean, intelligence is going to be the one that Aulen tries to attune to. So
I'm so
I will
excited
say,
for that, by the way.
I think Radford is going to attempt to attune to the Rod of Wisdom.
oh,
Ooh.
Okay.
that could be
Like,
cool.
I think originally... Well,
Oh yeah, duh.
it's-
Of course.
It seems to
yeah.
be the most fitting. Yeah.
Sorry, I just remember that Zoth was partially attuned to the Rod of Wisdom. That's sorry,
Yeah.
brain fart.
Yeah.
I made another wisdom-based character that we had plans for, but then we reworked how all this was going
Oh.
to go. So
Sure.
I still have that character,
You know-
but
That might make more sense. I mean, that is currently... Radford's an opportunist.
Yeah.
You know, he's on this grand quest. In his mind, you guys are joining his grand quest to get the avatars together.
Well,
and
really,
all
it's
of this
just his
stuff,
grand
so-
quest to make his airship float, right? That's like...
Well, I mean, no, it's not just
Okay.
that. Like, getting the airship is for him to get to K. He's on a mission
I see.
for K. And, you know, it sees himself as part of this grand design to get the avatars together and to bring magic back to the world and whatnot. But it's through the airship to get together.
I think in some ways Radford is very like Zoth, in that, like, specifically motivated by their deity, embodying aspects of that deity, although in different ways than Zoth did.
I think he's a strong candidate
trying
for the Rod of Wisdom. I think it would be
But
interesting to see
on a
the
meta
Rod
level?
try to overpower him.
On a meta level, I wouldn't want Jeb to attune to a Rod and, like, also Radford try to attune to a... Like, that doesn't seem
Right.
right for me to have control of two characters like that.
Well, there's 7 pieces and 4 of you. So unless you're going to outsource 3 of them, there are going to be some people who have more than one.
We've outsourced one of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one's with the King of Udril.
Which one?
Which
are we
would have
missing?
been the secondary, like, Jeb's second stat. That would work
Is
for
there
that.
is there a narrative reason? I feel like there is. I feel like it's too much of a coincidence that
What?
the one rod that both sides haven't gotten their hands on yet is the Rod of Luck.
Yeah.
I feel like that. I see that smile. I
funny.
see that smile. You can't hide it. You
He
can't.
wasn't trying to hide. Maybe
I
it's like the sword of Gryffindor where it just appears to the person who's most deserving of it.
Maybe there's a condition that's very statistically unlikely that causes it to arrive.
Luck.
What is that?
gotta be-
We all have secret luck stats.
Yeah, have you-
Next time we level up, we need to dump everything into luck.
Right.
True.
Has this entire time you've been rolling every session just be like, does the luck rod appear? Does the luck rod appear? Does the luck rod appear?
Since day one, I have been watching. I'll say it that way. Since session
What?
1, game 1, I have been watching.
Oh, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know.
Ask Belly Savalis how early in our campaign he guessed that it was the Rod of 7 Parts, and I told him it was.
I remember that.
I mean, I remember that, but
That was
day
like,
one, you've been looking for a certain condition for the Rod of Luck.
I sure have.
Interesting.
What?
Since before I knew what you could do with their powers, I have been looking for the one that is luck.
Does Belly know the condition?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Belly sent me a message and was like,
Wow.
hey, I don't want you to spoil the game for me, but I'm curious if the Rod of 7 Parts is involved. And I messaged him back something that was like, it was like a, I can neither confirm nor deny that it was like a tongue in cheek, like, yeah, it's involved.
And then he was like, okay.
We never doubted that Willa that Josh played the long game.
Long game.
Chat says, remember the rat with the defibrillator? That's also a season 1, episode 1.
That's the most statistically unlikely thing that could have happened is the rat coming back
That's
with the
true.
defibrillator. So I think
That was pretty unlikely.
I think
You're right.
that would have been the
That was,
the
one might
trigger.
say that was pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Something that was pretty cool, and that I want to make sure I take a second to do here for this mini arc is shout out Willa for all the art she made.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
If we have a look at this banter screen, these characters are all characters that Willa drew based on like single sentence text descriptions of the characters, and I told her the art style is kind of like Sly Cooper. And
Incredible.
She drew these characters here. Let's bring there's Bruisers. You can see him full
He's
body.
flying.
But she drew. Yeah, he's flying. Look at him go. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And she also did. I think you're gonna. Oh no, you'll hear our mics. But she did the flying fox here, like the leaping one with the leg and the blade.
Parkour.
She drew that.
Parkour.
So like all that stuff that she made, I think came out incredibly.
I agree.
Absolutely.
So just wanted to take a
was so
second
good.
and shout her out. Big thank you.
It
for
was
that.
the biggest surprise when
was the
like
best
these
surprise.
graphics first came on screen during the first
Oh,
session.
you gotta
It
show,
was like, what?
Clara, because Clara was also
it really,
really
made
well
it an
done.
experience.
That's right. We have Clara. Here she is. There's Clara in her evening gown.
Amazing.
Clara the fairy dragon. And yes, I agree. Just
All of the art.
mind-blowing how good she is at art.
Yes.
Also, her guest starring, like, perfect. That was such a
Yes.
fun episode.
Yeah.
It is always, for me, it's like any week that Clara is going to be in the game, I'm like, oh, I can take it easy as the GM because the game's going to be good because Clara is going to be there. I don't have to do anything to make the game interesting. I'll just let them talk to Clara, and it'll be great. So yeah, she's like, yeah, some of the drawings that she did, I gave her revisions to try and make them better match your descriptions of them. But she was like, I'm not changing Clara. Like, I'm Clara. I know what Clara looks like. And sure enough, there was no change needed.
That's awesome.
But yeah, just a huge thank you for that. We really appreciate it.
And it matched the art style, I will say, of Sly Cooper, a childhood favorite of mine. I just have to represent. Sorry.
I hold the Sly Cooper games up as some of the very best, like, in gaming history in my, like, on my personal list.
Like, no one ever
They're,
was?
like, just some of my favorites. One thing that we did not get to do a ton of, yes, she also drew a Jeb, which we saw in the bumper. That bumper is full of art that Willa did, and then the rest of it is art that AI made for us that I used, like, one of the generative AI creators. Also, the backgrounds are generative AI. It's like this tavern, the little briefing space here.
I mean, it looks great.
The streets.
Thanks, AI.
Yeah.
I will say, I think you did a good job with the briefing room.
The briefing room is the back of the cipher truck.
I like it. Yeah, I figured that.
Yeah, it's so good.
It gives the right vibe of Sly Cooper. I don't know how else to put it, but it reminds me of their van. You know,
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I'm sorry. Now I'm like fanboy gushing over.
Well, what's fun about it is because I didn't draw the art, like, I was discovering it too. So I would see one that came up, you know, like, oh, I got the prompt right, it came up cool, and I'd be just as excited about it. Like, wow, that's so great, I can't wait to see, you know. So that was a lot of fun for me.
That is cool.
One thing we did not get to do a ton of is interactive chat rewards, and not even just in the heist. I feel like we haven't done a very good job of implementing them really since season 2 started. And I think we've done a lot of other things really well, but I feel like it hasn't been as interactive for chat. And in particular, Willa has been not super pleased about that. So I put a lot of thought this week, since I wasn't having to plan a full session, into, like, what are some ways that we can bring that back and increase the amount of chat interactivity. And I have a bunch of options I want to pitch to you right now. But also I put a couple of them in the chat already, which Grubbug saw earlier and was like, oh, I see some new rewards that are cool. So one of them was trigger a weather event. Which would just be like, you know, lightning strike, earthquake, tsunami, rain, weather change, you know, like it could go from sunny to rainy, or a storm could start rolling in or whatever. I think those would be kind of cool. We've already talked about whether we keep oceans. I'll cross that one off. We're going to say oceans are for, like, specific things, and we kind of want Fox to be the one who triggers those rather than it being something the whole party gets. How do we feel about you take that back? This is something that I put in there and mentioned in just the last heist, but it never got used. It's a single-use GM red card, and it would be super expensive, like probably 5,000 or 10,000 points. And it literally is, I make a ruling, I do some exposition, the villain does an action, whatever, and chat can make me take it back. That doesn't mean that the opposite thing happens. So, for example, enemy casts lightning bolt on you. Chat says you take that back. The enemy doesn't lose their turn. They could do something else, but they can't cast lightning bolt on you. So it would be just sort of like a change it up on the fly type of thing. How do we feel about that as an idea? Do we like it? Is it too much? Is it?
I think it's fine.
I'd
have to see
it's
it
interesting.
implemented before I get, like, a full opinion on it, but I'm willing to try.
there's the ability for it to be abused, but I think making it expensive makes it hard to do that.
And also making sure that it doesn't refresh during the same stream. Like, it can only be used once per, like, going live.
Right. I was worried that, like, somebody could use it just on a cheap thing, or just, like, abused it for something nonsensical.
But I think that's also funny.
It is also
Josh.
funny. I think it gives the chat a lot of weight if they want it, right? And I think that's the whole. I thought that was the whole point setting out with this D&D, was to, like, give the chat weight and ability that even if we don't agree with it, it changes the story up drastically, or at least the on-screen narrative, right? Where it's like, oh no, now everything's worse or everything's better. I think giving a little power to chat. Obviously the best we can do balanced wise.
Yeah, I think that aspect of it makes me like it more. I think my main qualm in my head about it was, like, what if, like, something really, really, really important happens and it gets taken back, that, like, if it did happen, it would have had a lot of narrative consequences, and, like,
Like someone
would
dying.
have been like subjectively very interesting for the story. However, I think that the argument of the whole point of us setting out to do this, a lot of the point was to give chat a really big influence and make like pivotal moments really important. And so I think
you could also
is a good argument.
You could add the caveat that it can't undo a dice roll. Like once the dice is rolled, you have to live with the implications, because that takes away the like, hey, we've just made death have no impact.
Yeah.
I think that one's tough when there's like kind of latency to when someone receives the stream and then is trying to trigger the reward, and then by the
true.
but like by the time we receive
Chat
it,
says, Chat says no matter what happens, I have to save points, and I don't care whether that reward specifically exists. But right now, it is really hard for chat to affect the story. And the supply drop took months, which it did. And that's something that I'm going to ask about too. But I have a whole bunch of chat rewards that I want to pitch first.
Okay.
And in case this wasn't clear, chat, I am watching for all of your opinions as well on these. These are things for you. So if you want to weigh in,
I think
especially like Grubbug Belly and Will of the Wisp, who have been here like day one, you've been here for the long haul. We definitely want to hear your thoughts.
The supply drop was good. I think we should keep that.
That's true.
I also liked the supply drop.
Let's come back to those at the end, because I think we should keep them, but maybe
I was
the
going to
cost
say,
should change.
I felt bad. Willow's right in the saying that we never needed oceans, so the oceans never really felt powerful to them. It was more like throwing, I feel like it's just throwing like flower petals at us, and like...
It felt like drops in the ocean, you could say.
Aw. So here was
what would have made the oceans nice is if chat gave us an ocean, we had to use it right there.
Immediate.
That would have been it would have been a big middle finger to chat, but that would have been a really good moment to just take an ocean and be like, so Gunner, how's your toast?
Okay, so here's the next. All of the remaining ideas I have fit under the same category, which is I was trying to think, how could you affect gameplay in a meaningful way, but it not be magical, because magic doesn't work, and it's very hard for me narratively to explain things like the invisible servant and whatever. And what I came up with was the skulls in Halo. And so what if the rewards were similar to the skulls in the Halo campaign, where they change a mechanic? So here are the examples that I came up with, and I think that for each like skull or each tweak, there could be a cheaper 10-minute option and then a more expensive full session option. All attacks, hero and villain, deal double damage.
Ooh.
All saves, hero and villain rolled at disadvantage, or all saves, hero and villain rolled at advantage. The GM dice cam is visible on screen for a certain amount of time or for the whole session. A designated roller handles all player rolls for 10 minutes. A designated roller handles all GM rolls for 10 minutes. HP cannot be recovered while in combat initiative. This would not prevent stabilization at 0 hit points. All area of effects double in size and cannot discriminate between friend and foe. So those were like just the first ideas I came up with. They have a big effect on the game. They're not particularly like biased, like they, because they're an equal effect on everybody except maybe the GM cam. But even that, like, whatever I've just said earlier, I'm really hesitant to fudge rolls. So pretty much all my rolls are what they are. Unless it has like really no impact. And I'm like, it'd be funnier if, Fox tripped or something like that. But, what do we think of those ideas? And chat, what do you think of those ideas? And anyway,
I think that's super fun. I like it.
Yeah, I'd be willing to try it. Can I add something?
Yeah, I definitely suggest new ideas too. I definitely want suggestions.
Do we
as well.
still have the dice roller?
Like the in-chat dice roller?
Yeah. What if we can have chat like roll stuff?
We do. It can be tough to do that if there's no one in chat.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Like on the occasions where chat's not there, or if the latency is really bad, then it's like we're waiting 2 minutes for a roll.
There's a good part of our audience that are lurking. I would like to hope though that if they pay for the designated roller.
That's fair. If chat has to turn it on, then we know someone's there for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Belly, I hate it. I hate it all. Someone has to
what
be
if
that
you
guy,
had
Belly.
one? What if you had one where you specified a player or GM or something, and chat gets to like, this is your next roll. Is that too meta? Like where they would roll it, and if they rolled a 15, then the next roll that is called for, yours is a 15.
Ooh.
No, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, so
that's
You
fun.
just like put one in the queue, basically.
your command, so they pay for it. It rolls a dice on screen, right? One of your 3D dice. And
Yeah.
then you just have to take that for your next, check.
That's a great idea. I've only got 6s and 20s, but if we just stick to 20s because they're the most common one, that would be fine. It would just be your
Yeah.
next D20 roll.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Chat, do you have any other ideas of rewards you would want that are kind of like this, ways to affect the game or tweak situations or things you've always thought would be fun to do, but we haven't let you or anything like that? At the same time, also players still interested
Well,
in
there's,
your...
Okay.
there's a... Oh, Cleo, go.
I'm just sorry. Just to finish off that thought, the whole idea of chat rolling the dice and we have to take it. I just realized that could be a little meta, right? You could be like, "Oh, I'm not going to check the door because there's a nat 1 on the screen," right? What if it's a chance, right? It rolls the dice, we all see it, but then you as the GM has to roll like a D4 or something every time there's a skill check. Could be the moment somebody has to use that die. And it could be moments where we all want to use it, right? It could be a high roll, or it could be moments nobody wants to use it.
Oh,
So add some chance.
After chat does the thing, someone has to flip a coin or whatever, and there's like a 50-50 shot of like which roll will be that. So it's like next time it's like, okay, it's Aulen's turn. Aulen does something, flip coin. Oh, it's heads. It needs to be tails for it to happen. So we're going to keep going until it happens.
Right.
Or what if I roll a D4 to figure out which player it applies to, but I don't tell you?
That's
like
even
that.
You
better.
don't know which of you gets
That's
the roll.
even better.
You just know someone has it in the chamber.
That's even better.
Chat says something like a roulette. The roll can't be. That's exactly it, Willa. I totally agree. That's the idea I just suggested. It can be assigned to an NPC. Yeah. Willa and I are clearly married. We come up with the same ideas at the same time.
Something that I saw proposed in a video. I don't know, like if people like it or how it works implementing wise. But it's sort of this like karmic kind of thing where the homebrew rule is that a player, or like we could change things to have chat involved, but a player can change any roll they want to a 20. But then that allows the GM to change any roll they want to a 1. And so it's like the more you do it, the more consequences you face because the GM also has that ability as you use it.
I don't know. I feel like that could add some animosity between the GM and the players. Could be...
I agree. I would also prefer for them to be things chat got to do rather than things players got to do. Because if I wanted you all to have unlimited power, we'd just play a video game. Let's keep taking ideas or brainstorming them throughout the rest of the night here, but just to make sure we talk about some of the other important stuff that's coming up, let's talk about that next. Ooh, chat says I kind of like having an option for a mystery effect just to add a bit of variability to the situation. Do you mean like triggering a complication, Belly? Or like, can you explain what a mystery effect might be?
Like a magic table? Obviously it wouldn't be a magic table.
Like a wild magic table?
Right.
Something like that?
Right.
A wild non-magic table.
A wild non-magic table.
It's just a wild
It's a
table.
wild-
It's a pretty wild table.
It's an actual
It's just a table.
with fangs.
Yeah, it's just a table.
I mean, if you wanted like
much
an
like a
in-game
one
reason to
table.
explain it, maybe it's just like as things are progressing in the world, like magic is just behaving very sporadically.
Well,
and, like,
he
breaking
knows. So if
he does.
if he could make it work, he would make it work. So I'm gonna trust that he can't ish. So
That's an interesting idea. I wonder if there could be... I mean, I guess that's kind of like the weather effect.
Yeah.
Faulty wingle digits. I like what
Faulty
Belly
wingle
says.
digits. Yeah, or unstable sacrium under the ground or something like that.
it could be a table designed for each. Like maybe it's a very simple table, only 5 things, right? But it's for each session, specific to that session, so that way, like
Roll 1d5.
it could be as simple as like maybe at the summit tower, right? It could be a guard notices something. Could be one of the things, right? That otherwise we've gotten away with. Or
I have an idea.
okay.
Josh,
Yeah,
you like to use secrets and clues.
I do.
What if chat could spend points to force you to reveal one of your secrets and clues?
I'm open to the idea. I've actually put the DM gives a clue reward in there a couple of times and made it pretty expensive. If we did that, I think I would still want a way to work it into the narrative to make it more, like, to make it make sense, sort of. But I'm totally open to the idea.
Yeah.
How dare you?
How?
Well, what did you want to move on to? We'll brainstorm throughout.
Sure.
How even?
The next thing I was thinking we should talk about is the next quest, the Aulen quest. I wanted to give a brief overview of what we're doing, and then I wanted us to talk about how we're going to do it. So the when we split,
We're doing my
ways-
thing, right?
When we split ways, Fox was on his way to rescue Jeb, and Aulen had decided that the most important thing he could do right now was to go and try and rescue Do Bumblefoot from the abandoned Hemetetian city of Nowood, which has been built into a mountain further south and east of Gaim. And Aulen does have the rods of intelligence and wisdom, and I believe Aulen's goal was to attune to the rod of intelligence.
Correct.
So that's the upcoming quest. Now, we had talked about in our Discord, and I wanted to bring to the group here, the idea of, like, do we want to lean into a different trope? I think that like the Indiana Jones, like, action architect could be fun. I think a disaster movie like Journey to the Center of the Earth, except like the disaster would be wherever the avatar is being imprisoned, could be fun. We also talked about using this as a chance to play test the newest Unearthed Arcana. There's a bunch of 1D&D options that just came out for melee characters. Like, they just did their reworked barbarian class, so it'd be a chance for Aulen to mess around with that. Or, like, do we go back to the normal game? Do we miss it enough that we want to just, like, you know, go back to our normal vibe, which is in itself, like, because there's no magic, it's already kind of changed up and interesting.
Well,
so I'm interested in chat's thoughts and players' thoughts. I'm not going to say anything about it for a while. I want to hear what everyone else wants.
I want to jump on what Wash said much earlier in the night, which was talking about how each thing was its own, like, mechanic. I think Wash brought that up. Maybe that was Trevor, but
It sounds clever, so it was probably.
but I just realized, like, you know how awesome that would be if, like, Fox has his oceans and then Aulen could have his mechanic, and, like, each of the main cast brings their own mechanic from like
Jeb's mechanic is PTSD.
but
My mechanic is trauma.
yeah. But you get what I'm
Zoth
saying,
mechanic
right?
is being able to haunt people.
I do get what you're saying, and
Like, it's
at
kind of like
first,
a-
that's the assumption I was operating on. I think this entire time as we were doing this, and I was kind of like, oh, Alan's probably going to do another genre thing as well. However,
I mean, it could just be a mechanic
as
in
we've-
general. It doesn't have to
yeah.
be attached to that.
as I've been thinking about it more, like this last week, since we talked about it in the Discord a bit, I miss playing a bit of your standard Dungeons and Dragons, and I also haven't messed with any of the 1D&D stuff yet, and I think it sounds fun. And personally, I think my vote would be to playtest some of the new 1D&D stuff personally, because I want to have, I think Alan's next thing deserves some focus on the RP. Personally, I think it deserves some focus on the RP and having some quiet moments, and not just leaning into a genre.
Okay,
Which
okay.
I shouldn't say just, because what we just did was super fun. But I did feel a little bit, if there was only one negative, because I think there was only one negative, it was that I was hoping to have more time with Fox to get into the deep, gritty, emotional stuff that Fox was feeling at the end of when Aulen and Fox were still in the same room. and that was really cool to me, and I didn't get as much of that during this as I hoped, and I think that was partially because of the focus on the genre trope stuff. That's my personal opinion.
Hear me out. Aulen's mechanic is bringing the one D&D tool set with him into the main game, just permanently.
I mean, we did do the play test, at least like early on. It didn't really feel that different or impactful in terms of gameplay. I don't know how if it would feel different now with more stuff.
Yeah.
I was gone for that, so I didn't play it, but
They've reached the point in the Unearthed Arcana where we are getting drafts of the player's handbook now.
Okay.
Like it's the full player's handbook. We've got revisions of 5 classes. They've changed the way they've brought back some of the skills. I was just reading this earlier today to see if it would actually have any impact on our game, and I think it would. They've brought back the search and the study mechanics from D&D 3 and 3.5.
Okay.
Which really clear up a lot of the use investigation for everything. So now it's the study action involves a different skill depending on the kind of thing you're trying to learn about. So it also clarifies a lot of the stuff with insight between study and search. So I think those are really cool adds. They gave tons of new flavor options to martial classes. The big focus this time around was on the warrior class, and they did some things to make weapons more interesting and to make their impactfulness on the game scale with level the way that Magic does.
that's cool.
So there are some really interesting things in there to try, but I don't know that it would be it's still going to be D&D 5 mostly, with some new pants on.
I mean, yeah, one D&D is D&D 5.5.
Yeah. They don't want you to say that, though.
I know they don't want me to say
Aren't we
that.
all D&D 5e with new pants on?
Yes.
I mean, that is what our game is too. Like our whole campaign already is D&D 5 plus homebrew.
With less pants on because there's no magic.
Yeah.
From this day forward, I am going to refer to homebrew in any capacity as new pants on.
What kind of pants are you wearing, though? Are you wearing some flashy pants? Are we wearing khakis?
Jodhpurs.
Oh, okay.
I'm not particularly attached to doing any one thing. I would be really happy just any of them. I think if we were to lean in a trope, maybe we do a soap opera-y kind of drama to get the RP part that Jake wants.
No. I'm vetoing that right now.
Let me
Have you
bust out my
watched a
Spanish
soap opera?
accent.
No, I haven't. I just know it's very dramatic.
I had actually suggested to the players just earlier this week or last week or whatever, and they kind of shot it down.
Reality
but I thought it'd
show.
be funny to try and do reality TV where chat could trigger the confessional camera, in the office or whatever, where it cuts away and there's a person who's talking to camera. I'm always prepared for this kind of situation. In the background, everyone's talking. I thought it'd be funny to try and trigger that, but we decided that would not be good.
What if once we get Radford's ship, we do a space opera?
Ooh.
Or at least a have you guys seen Treasure Planet?
No.
Oh yeah.
Rom-com Aulen X Laredith chat says.
Oh my god.
Treasure Planet. Treasure Planet is literally what my home Spelljammer campaign is.
Yeah, that's great. I think if we all had a Discord movie night and watched Treasure Planet and then did the airship stuff, I think that would be very beneficial.
Just to throw this out there, for whoever, one of my veils as a GM is role playing any kind of love or romantic relationship with the other players. I'm okay with it
Despite
being
my
alluded
pressure.
to off screen, but I would rather not role play it in person at the table because it feels weird.
No, yeah, I think
just-
the Alan Laredith thing is just a funny almost headcanon to me. It's not that's happening.
I agree, but there's a second place it's applicable, which is Jeb and Holly. So I wanted to point that out to the table here in a situation where they're not he's dangling the dream and taking it away. That's just.
I love you, Josh.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I'm okay with alluding to it off screen. It can be part of the story. I just don't want to actually act it out.
Yeah,
sure.
Okay.
That's fair.
That is fair.
Yeah.
So we've got Trevor doesn't care.
Yep.
Jake likes playtesting the Unearthed Arcana. Cleo and Wash, do you have opinions
I-
on tropes and or styles?
I just wish, because right now the way I was seeing it in my head, right, is that like this is almost like the build up in a video game kind of narrative, right? I bring that up specifically because it is like Fox got a new power up, right? He has a new power unlocked by completing chapter 1 or something.
do.
And I just thought it was really cool.
Fox's new power is thinking ahead.
It's like that time Fox is
grown
like,
up.
I tried
He did it.
telling the truth and it totally worked.
I made a
Fox's
plan and
powers are
actually planned this
basic
time.
life skills.
You
Fox
know what I
realizes-
mean.
Fox realizes
No, I
Fox
know,
was right all
amazing.
along.
By the time Fox reaches the life skills of any 8-year-old, he will have completed his character arc. That's the growth plan
Oh,
for
God.
Fox.
He's like, nope, I am not going to eat dessert first. Curtains closed.
Yeah. Oh,
That's the condition for the Rod of Luck.
The most statistically unlikely D&D scenario.
Yeah, Fox eating his
Oh.
whole ration instead of just the desserts out of it.
That actually wasn't that a flavor thing that happened in some of our
That's
overland
why I
travel?
made the joke. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh, sorry, Willa. I meant that like about telling the truth, not about planning ahead. Zoth didn't plan ahead.
So I do want to say, first of all, you know what I meant. Y'all know what I meant. Gosh darn it. And second of all, what if it's specifically something meta for the Rod of Luck? Sorry, Josh brought it up, and I just thought, like, what if we managed to overthrow the DM in a lawyering moment,
What?
and that's like the statistically unlikely.
Objection!
Yeah,
Phoenix Wright.
Yeah, Phoenix Wright. We objection and win, and that's what brings about the Rod of Luck.
Wow. What if?
No.
Chad says they were shook when Fox told Clara the truth right off the bat. She was like, "What are you doing here?" And Fox is like, "I'm here to, steal a bunch of stuff for private security goons."
I mean, like, it's what Fox would have done. I gotta like. Fox, trusts Clara, and he knows that Clara values the truth, right? That's the type of society he learned very hard and very quickly that any kind of tomfoolery when it comes to fibs and with the whole dragons was a bad idea. So, yeah,
He always has a little soft shoulder angel giving him guidance.
oh, Zoth will always be watching over Fox.
Chat says, "Be careful. What if the Rod of Luck gives you amazing luck, but only by taking it from those around you?"
Hey, I've read that monkey paw story. Okay,
What if it's triggered when we usurp the DM and one of us takes over?
That's what Cleo was saying earlier.
No, Cleo said it
What if
specifically by like a rule or overruling a law or something.
What if it's when we roll 3 natural 20s in a row?
Ooh.
We've already done that.
Have we?
oh,
3 in a row?
I thought didn't Trevor do that?
that must
No,
be
it's
it
two.
then.
I will not comment on the mechanic, but Trevor has only ever rolled 2 natural 20s in a row.
okay.
And he would only know that if he was looking.
But yeah, I was like, but he's keeping track.
So that means
Well,
it
Trevor
might be
called
3.
it out in a session a little while ago. He's like, "I got 3 natural 20s in a row," and I went back and listened, and I was like, "Did he really?" And he only got 2. It was the one where you got like a bunch of 20s and ones in one session.
I believe you, Josh, but I don't think that's the reason. I think the reason is that the 3 in a row is the trigger.
Maybe it is.
It could be nat ones. It could be nat ones, but I do now. I
Maybe
am
we
100% on board.
What if we each need to roll a natural 20?
Just
Chat
at all.
goes, "What if you can only obtain the Rod of Luck by luck?"
True.
Dun dun dun.
I am
If
stuck
we
on the
get to
dice roll.
If we get to the fountain at Name Dis, then we could just wish for the rod.
Wish for the Rod of Luck.
I mean, it would be pretty statistically unlikely for us to get there. So,
That's true.
what if it's just chilling there?
We-
What if it's just like,
We may find what was his name? He should still be there.
Oh, the spider.
oh,
Yeah, the spider. What was his name?
oh God,
Gibbler.
Gibbler.
Not to grab this conversation by the horns and try and steer it back once more to the topic at hand, but I am just checking in again with Cleo and Wash as far as tropes or Unearthed Arcana or whatever we want to do.
Well, as far as Wash is concerned,
Gibbler.
I like the idea of doing the Indiana Jones action architect trope thing, but I don't know what the gimmick would be, because Indiana Jones action architect is just kind of like D&D and a dungeon crawl.
That's true.
With really good rolls and plot armor.
There's always a boulder chasing you.
Just all the
Is
time.
this like the snail scenario all over again? You get $1 million, but a boulder is chasing you permanently.
It's a snowball and it grows
about the snail scenario.
like a centimeter.
All right. Sorry. Gimmick, right? My opinion, right? I would like there to be a gimmick of some sort, just to follow the idea that's stuck in my head and I cannot drop it, of like each person gaining a power up, right? Obviously during the arc, everyone has access to it, but then like after the arc, it carries over into that one person having access to it. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel comfortable having Fox have oceans, or like just Fox have oceans. I think there's better ways to narratively work in the growth from that arc, if that's what we're going to do with that. But I do think it would be pretty cool to have like, I've unlocked this ability, this power up specific to me. But
Through the power of friendship.
through the power.
I
of
mean, we
friendship.
can have a trope and do the RP that Jake wants. It doesn't have to be either or.
I think Jake just wants to return back to the normal.
Here's my.
Lay it out for
I'm
us.
trying to think about.
Here is my
it.
fight song.
I think there's a lot of potential for really genuine character development of Aulen in this next arc, and I think that's great. I personally don't want to worry about role playing that into a trope of a certain genre.
Okay.
So it's kind of this idea of like if we were doing disaster movie, and Aulen had like some sort of like character moment, I feel like I would be preoccupied with thinking about how I can fit into a disaster movie scene, or how I can fit into a disaster movie trope scenario, as opposed to thinking about how is this going to affect Aulen and how can I effectively communicate it.
What if it's just
That's my opinion.
what if the mechanic, right, is just like a really cool artificery? Am I saying that right? But like just like a cool like artifact that you make or find, and that becomes like your power.
That could be a goal throughout the arc. I'm not sure exactly what that would be. I know that
I was thinking of the trope being less of like a scenario that, or like less of a thing that dictates how you would behave inside of it, like we did with the heists, and more of just like the setting.
Okay, so just like a lighter theme,
like the style of the adventure that we're in. I mean, if we're literally going to Nowood, which is like a subterranean city in a mountain, then there's the journey up the mountain into the thing, diving into ancient places. I mean, that kind of fits like an action architect sort of setting.
Adventure.
but we just don't
yeah.
change how we behave. We treat it like normal D&D. It's just the setting's influenced by it. Is what you're saying?
I mean, I can certainly build some adventure-y looking settings. That's definitely easy to do.
Well, is there a mechanic that goes along with that?
I would have been thinking, like, if there was a mechanic that was related, it would probably be to textbooks and study.
Mm.
Like, rather than being able to scope out and prepare for the plan ahead of time, it could be like X amount of things. You could say something like, I think I researched this.
To the
or something
library.
Like that. Where it we flash back to Aulen surrounded by books that he's borrowed from the Royal Librarian guy.
Yeah.
In
I would like to use a library.
wouldn't we all?
That's an interesting idea. I could get behind that. Like the idea of like it's pretty much only used to gain history or information or like specific cultural type things.
But also, like, you could just bake that in whenever he makes a study check, you know?
Sure.
Like if we're doing
just like a flavor
test.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Is
just
fair.
would also like to go back to the heartfelt moments. You know, a bit more of the role play that we kind of missed out on, and which was fine. I don't think that was necessarily a negative for this arc, but I do think it's one of those things that needs to come back. I miss having the chance to have those heartfelt moments.
Yeah.
Those deep talks.
All right, so maybe we
Hey,
go
Fox.
back to just 5e. Do we want to try the playtest stuff? Like, it sounds like we're leaning away from maybe doing a trope, like a full-on trope. Do we want to playtest the new stuff, or do we want to just stick to the old stuff? I'm fine either way. I'm just trying to narrow down what kind of game to run for you guys.
This is tough.
I'm going to default to Jake since this is like Aulen's lead. So whatever Jake chooses, I'm with.
I don't mind. I don't mind like the murkiness of having certain abilities because of using a rule system, and then not having them in the future because we go back to the previous rule system. Like that personally doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
If that's any concern.
No, yeah, that's not that. I don't think that's really concern for me either. Herm.
It's Minecraft. Minecraft is the
would it-
theme.
would
That bit in a while.
Would anyone be upset if we went back to vanilla 5e?
No.
No,
I would not in the slightest.
Okay, then I think that's what I would like to do.
let's do it.
Cool.
Then we're doing that.
Sounds great. Now, also thinking of the next quest, what kind of crew is Aulen trying to recruit? You know what I mean?
Recruit.
Recruit.
Yeah, that.
Recruit.
Who does Aulen want to bring on this adventure?
Bring.
Bring. Aulen would like to bring, I think, people of a wide variety of skill sets. He's kind of going by the idea of like the crew that his close friends that he has gone through this thus far with. The fact that they all brought something pretty unique at skill set and background wise was like a really big asset for them. And I think he wants to build that into his team here. So unlike the heist crew where it's like everyone's a rogue just with it's kind of a different flavor with a different specialty, I think Aulen would like to bring in kind of a wide variety so that it's kind of a this doesn't happen now, but back in the day when presidents would build out their cabinets, they would try to bring people with a wide variety of ideas and backgrounds and things like that, as like kind of this idea of like people who challenge each other will bring strength to decision making.
Right.
I think that
Aulen for president. This is his leader arc.
I think it could be. So I think that's what Alan's going to try to do here.
I would love for the three of you, as you're making new characters to join in this quest, I would love for you to build characters who are coming from the perspective that we have baked in an understanding and sort of respect and aspiration towards Aulen and what Four Guys does. Like, I don't want us to have to find a reason for you all to want to travel with Aulen. I would rather it be like this party came to Four Guys and presented themselves and Aulen was able to select them. Trevor's got a hand up. What's up?
Could the character I made prior to us doing this format of like 4 people fit into that? If you remember.
Probably.
Okay.
I might.
I'm not trying to control the mechanics of your character.
No,
I'm
no.
saying in the backstory and the motivation, I want the character's motivations to solve the problem of why are you going to go with Aulen and risk life and limb for something that may or may not work.
Oh, okay.
Hear me out. Session 1, right? We each bring like 3 characters and then do an interview with Aulen. And then Aulen has to choose one of those 3 characters
I don't
from
want
each
to have
of
to
us.
make you guys make 3 character sheets of like level 9 characters though.
I'd love to.
What if you came up with 3 concepts where you just picked class, subclass, and a little bit of personality, and Aulen conducts interviews next week?
Yeah.
on the 29th.
That sounds fun
As
to me.
like a session, partly session 0. Like I'll do the session 0 stuff as the GM, where it's like, hey, here's the log line of the campaign. Here's a couple of things like, that you should understand as you're building characters about the environments you'll be in and whatever. And then Aulen will do like job interviews with each character. That's kind of fun.
That sounds great to me. I like that a lot.
Do you players, does that sound fun for you or does
Absolutely.
that sound boring?
I would love that.
I plan to play Radford, so that doesn't apply to me.
Fair enough.
It would just.
Radford could be helping with the
I would love
interviews.
that. Yeah, Radford would totally.
Oh
help
my
with the
god!
interviews.
I'm sorry. The mental image that just gave
Oh
me
yeah, I'll suss them out for you.
is Radford and Aulen sitting behind a desk and just a line of just misfit people just like showing up and then be like next, and they're gonna be like,
I
well,
think that's great.
see, I wanted to work with you because my father died, and you're like, red flag, next. Yeah.
Oh, he's got trauma. That's good. That's good.
We can manipulate that.
Oh. So
Yeah, that sounds fun to me.
We're not doing playtests just for 5e, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, just normal 5e.
correct.
I'm just
Plain old 5e.
I'm gonna do what I do best and just come up with the characters and then,
and not make a character sheet because we all know you're not going to open it anyway.
Are we gonna get a
Wow.
weakling in the team?
I will have 3 made-up character sheets and somewhat detailed.
Listen, I will have a couple of dice thrown and an awesome character put together. Okay.
You don't need
I might
dice
even-
thrown by next week though.
I might even give
well, I'm gonna
you
throw 'em anyway,
the
right?
like some of the DM information in the 4GAF chat during the week in our Discord, just so you know a little bit about the part of the world you're going to explore, in case those things impact your character development. But I'll still recap them for anyone who's not in our Discord, in the session. I'll do that first, and then we'll cover the rest of it.
I just thought of a cool character idea, but sorry,
Ooh.
we can keep it. We can keep it DL.
Yeah, just write it down somewhere. Save it somewhere for yourself. Next week, I will also have all the new chat rewards in the chat, not because we can use them, but so that we can
See
go
'em.
through them all
Yeah.
and everyone has a chance to speak into them and kind of think about what they want to do next.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot of ground. Is there anything about the mini arc we just finished? What should we name this arc?
I liked No More Left Behind.
That's true. No More
Yeah.
Left Behind is a good name for it. So is there anything else about No More Left Behind that you want to talk about? Anything that you think are like important details we missed, chat, or anything that players you're like, oh, this was cool, or this was tough, or I didn't like this, or I have a prediction, or anything like that?
I mean, I know we were working away from it. I'm not sure if you wanted to come back to it or not. But the tower falling, did we go over that as much as?
Yeah, we
We
pretty
talked
much
a little
did.
bit about it.
Okay.
You said you wanted to revisit whether the aBoLeTh died or not.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yes, we were going to find out if the aBoLeTh died. Shoot dang.
Shoot dang, bada
okay.
bang.
Good call.
That's a good.
And I think that's a good way to
Shoot,
end it too. It's like
Biggity bang. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, the
alive,
aBoLeTh-
dead, or undead.
Yeah. So the aBoLeTh was in the pool, inside the tower, and it was guarded by the remaining 3 vaults. So Jeb was off doing Jeb things.
Ooh.
And the other 3 vaults were guarding the aBoLeTh. So the question isn't, what did the aBoLeTh do? The aBoLeTh doesn't have any relevant powers that can save it if this building goes down. The question is, were those 3 members of the vaults able to get the aBoLeTh out in time? And they would have gotten a small amount of warning. Enough warning that I think probably there's like maybe the equivalent of 2 rounds for them to try and figure out what to do. Because as Jeb is falling, Jeb has plenty of time to say something
Well,
over the radio,
E-
even if he can't.
Even
do
if he
anything else,
didn't,
you know what I
right?
mean?
It took time for the tower to fall.
That too. Yeah. So even after the explosion, there was a bunch of time. So I'm going to group the 3 of them into one save. But we're going to give them a couple of different saves. So let's start with a dexterity save to represent just were they able to react before there was an explosion, to put things in motion that might give them advantage in the future. They rolled a nat 1.
Yay.
Yeah.
So they definitely did not react. And in fact, they were caught a little flat-footed. They're going to have disadvantage on whatever the next roll is. So the tower goes it's obvious to them. The first thing they need to do is secure the aBoLeTh for transport, or figure out how they're going to get it out, right? This is a matter of intellectual planning as well as sort of dexterous happening. I think that to me sounds like an intelligence modified sleight of hand check, to see if they can get the pieces in place or not. So I'm going to roll that with disadvantage for them. And I'll give them the average modifier of the vaults, which, to be fair, is still pretty high. It's a 3 on the die, which is an 11 on the sleight of hand check. That's probably not enough to get, we're talking about a tower that's teetering back and forth. This is a rushed motion. So whatever it is that they're going to try and do, we're now at desperate straits. So I think their final thing here is we're going to give them one more save for the last ditch. Belly says, do I mention something that seems to be forgotten that may make a difference against the players, or keep my mouth shut?
Ooh. Keep your mouth
you mention
shut.
Bring it up. Why not?
Jake's like, keep your mouth shut.
Let's hear it. Let's have it.
Oh, no.
You don't have to, Belly.
Yeah,
you don't have to.
Here's the die.
If you want to, but feel
Belly.
free to keep your mouth shut.
Yeah. You have the right to remain silent.
Yeah, right.
Anything you say will and can be used against
Let
you.
the guys vote on it.
Let the guys vote on it.
Ooh.
All right.
Okay, so
There's 4 of them, so I'll tie
I
break
want to know.
if we have a tie.
I'm being tongue-in-cheek. Like,
Yeah.
I think it's perfectly
you
fine.
go for it,
I'm just
Billy.
here for the lulz.
Nah.
Wash is a yes. Trevor's a yes.
yeah, I'm a yes. Of course.
Yeah, go for it, Billy.
Okay. Yep. That's it. Belly, you gotta hit him with it. Drop that knowledge.
We're just teasing.
Hopefully it's that one that we forgot way back when, and he just figured it out.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Ooh.
He learned the secret from season 1.
I just thought I'd drop that in there, but now it's silent, so I probably could have just said that out loud. But
Thanks for the awkward.
I'm gonna do this last roll while Belly types out whatever that was. Based on their modifiers and the actual DC, it's a 14 on the die, just a straight die roll.
Ooh.
Chat granted the villains get an ocean on the last run. All right, well then, how about they burn it right here? That seems like the thing they would use it on, is having some kind of emergency escape preparation.
True.
They get 1 advanced skill check to put things in place for an emergency escape. I think that emergency, or that 1 skill check, is being used to make the windows like they're building in a release or an escape on the windows. So you can, like, you hit a button and the windows pop off the side so that they can just leap out with their cargo if they need to, basically with a parachute.
Excuse me.
That would make this last.
You have to do a
Go ahead.
skill check to make sure they can do it. Otherwise, they have to use more oceans, if I remember correctly.
All right. I'll give them a skill check for that. That's a sleight of hand. And as we already established before, the group has a collective +8 to sleight of hand.
I was just.
That's a 26.
I was just beaming.
I think that's going to do it.
Yeah.
They have modified the windows. So this last check then is going to get a tiny bit easier for them because they've still got the parachute. They're panicked now. The aBoLeTh is not secured well. They're going to leap out with the parachute. So really what we're looking for is, can they secure the aBoLeTh? They're like carrying this aBoLeTh like a...
No, you remember when the squid
like a rolled
monster
up
jumped
carpet.
off like
A
the
giant
5th floor?
catfish.
Yeah, like a giant catfish. Exactly. What check do you think that is?
They're noodling.
Just
Whichever-
strength to hold on?
Whichever skill they have the least amount of
Wait.
modifiers.
Is the parachute on the
Obviously a
aBoLeTh?
charisma check.
Or are they holding on to the aBoLeTh with parachutes on them?
The 3 of them have parachutes.
Strength for sure, or
It's
athletics.
like, how would you strap an aBoLeTh into a parachute?
Something
You know what I mean?
strength-based
Yeah,
for
strength.
sure.
Give it a backpack.
Very carefully.
Athletics.
Yeah.
That seems like an athletics thing, like between the skydiving
Free
and
willy
the holding
check.
on.
Yep.
So that's probably an athletics with a DC of like 25
good, Billy.
between, like, it's wet and slippery and you're jumping
And it's
there's
3
a lot
people
going on.
holding onto
It's
this
not hard.
giant
It's 3
fish
people.
thing.
Yeah. So I think 25
It's just
is...
got a big wet smack on the concrete.
That would
There-
be insane if we missed that. We're driving away and we miss an aBoLeTh splatting
No.
on the city floor.
We drive away.
all
We
comes
just
down
hear
to
a
this
thunk.
roll.
And the
Well,
cipher
actually,
truck?
this roll, even if they fail,
And then the
I guess
building falls
then I
on
just
it.
have to roll the fall damage if they fail. Like now the aBoLeTh is outside the tower, so there's no rubble.
Are we going to
landing on
talk
it.
about how
It
people
might
just
survive
watched
the fall.
a giant fish monster just fall out of the tower before the tower collapsed? That's going to be on conspiracies for years.
Sure.
So unceremonious, this aBoLeTh's death.
They're like,
All right,
dude,
here's the roll. Their collective sort of the average of their athletic scores
Okay.
is 1 point worse than their collective sleight of hand score. So this is
Plus
a plus
7.
7 to the
oh,
roll.
ooh, okay.
So to beat a 25, they need an 18 or higher because attacker wins in a tie. So they need an 18 or higher.
all right.
I've got the die right here.
Ooh.
It's a 5.
Let's go.
Yes.
They drop the
splats.
aBoLeTh as they leap out of the tower. The
Nice.
aBoLeTh falls. They were on, what was that, the 47th floor? 48th?
no.
No, that was the pool. So the pool's a little bit lower than that. The pool was
Oh,
on,
that's right.
I think it was still in the 20s. So we get the full 20 d6 of fall
Heck
damage.
yeah.
Let's see here.
All right.
I'm going to try and
6
remember
times
if...
20 is what we're hoping
I'm trying to
for.
remember if this works. No. Okay, so you would have to roll one d20 at a time up there. We're not going to do that. I'm going to roll a pile of d6 over here and see how much damage they take.
I mean, can't you
Actually,
spawn
how about
die?
everybody rolls.
on-
Each of us roll. Roll
5.
five.
Like, well,
Yeah, each of you roll 5d6. I'm gonna roll 4d6, and the first person in chat to use exclamation mark roll.
Wait,
6
wouldn't that be-
Will roll the
wait.
next d6. Like the command would look like this.
Wait, no, it would be if it was 5 of us, then we would all roll 4d6.
Sure. Yep. Then everyone roll 4, and I'm gonna roll 3,
Okay, cool.
Okay.
and then we'll add them all up. And I demonstrated for you, chat, how to do it.
I got above average roll, the same. Above average roll,
Nice.
gang. Everybody.
We also don't know
rolled
the
pretty good.
max health of an aBoLeTh.
I'm deliberately not revealing the max health of an aBoLeTh to you.
Yeah, I know.
All right, chat rolled a 5. That's a nice high damage roll for chat.
Chat is
Okay.
above average, gang. Who else is a part
That's
of above
right.
average, gang?
So let me mark down chat's roll right
I am
here.
not.
Okay. Jake, what's your total?
15.
Tisk, tisk.
Got a 15.
That's above average. Above average, gang.
Cleo, what's your total?
16.
16. Wash, what's your total?
Hashtag 15 gang.
15. And Trevor, what's your total?
9.
Get out of
9.
here.
And then chat and I together rolled.
Poorly.
55 so far.
Chat and I together rolled the most out of any of this group. Who am I missing?
Weird flex, but okay.
I've only got
60.
4 on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, I'm wrong. I've got 5. Okay.
What a forearm.
Let me.
Forehead.
Yeah, forehead. Come on.
So max damage is 120, right?
We're at
Whatever 20 times 20 is 400.
What do you mean 20
Max
times
damage.
6 would
It's
be?
6 times 20. Yeah, you're right. 120 it is. Sorry,
If we
I
were
just
supposed to be rolling
way
d20s, that's a
overbalanced.
different. I think in AD&D, fall damage could end up being in d20s.
Wait, what did
I don't know if there
you-
was ever a terminal velocity cap to
What did you roll,
fall
Josh?
damage
Really?
in AD&D, if I remember correctly.
That's hilarious. I didn't know that. I never played AD&D. I just read it a little bit.
I did. In
What
high
did you
school.
roll, Josh?
What did I rot?
What did you rot?
I rolled higher than you all.
Well, I know we got 60 so far, including what chat rolled.
Okay. The aBoLeTh did not die on impact.
Ooh.
But
But it did get
there is
splatted.
rubble falling towards it, and it did go splat, and it's out on the land.
Can they breathe air?
I never thought of that.
Yes, the aBoLeTh can breathe air and water.
Oh. Okay.
Not necessarily earth or fire, though.
Can it move on land? Can
Say
they
it again?
move on land?
Slowly.
Like, do they
can
slither around?
slither.
Yeah.
I
just
think they
rolls.
probably do the tentacle walk.
It's got a 5-foot flop speed.
It's a magic carpet, uses splash. This aBoLeTh has perished.
Let's
Yes.
go.
Killed an aBoLeTh. Although I guess Fox doesn't really know But yeah, between the splat and the rubble and the things, this aBoLeTh has perished.
So wait, are you telling
And
me as Fox drives away with Jeb in hand, just being like, I only cared about Jeb.
And the rods.
Yeah, I only cared about Jeb, but saving the world, I guess, was along the way.
As far as advancing the plot or the mission, these were the most productive 6 sessions we've ever had, I think.
True.
It's because we got to think ahead.
Yeah, exactly.
Fox's new power, thinking ahead.
All right, I think that is going to wrap us up for tonight's stream. Next Monday, Aulen's conducting
Job interviews.
Aulen and Radford are conducting interviews. Maybe we'll see a little good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, probably.
But for now, from all of us here at Wing Badger Gaming, thanks for hanging out. We will see you next Monday. We might see you before then. My wife, Will-O-The-Wisp, has been doing some blind Tears of the Kingdom playthrough. So far, she has not played the game not on stream. So her entire journey is there in the Twitch VODs.
Ooh.
That's awesome.
If she continues to do that, you might see us throughout the week. Otherwise, you'll see us next Monday. Until then, Cleo, what do we tell the people?
All right. Listen.
Hear me out.
We're going to hear you out.
GG's. And, well, you and me, the end of the video, kind of awkward, kind of waiting for you to subscribe and, all that. I'm just gonna head out.